guys, welcome back to Dexter Ranch. My name's Danny and this is the second video in a series I'm calling A Guide to Buying Your Very First Dexter Cow. The first video we focused on items that you needed to own and have on farm before you brought that Dexter cow back to your property. Today's video we're going to be focusing on the days leading up to and the day that you actually go to buy your Dexter cow. I'm going to give you some recommendations on places to look for Dexter cattle for sale, and then I'm going to give you some general tips on questions that you should be asking the breeder when you make contact with them, and then things to look for when you actually go to buy the Dexter cow. Guys, comment down below if you like this style of video. I work a full-time job and run a part-time farm, and it's really hard to make videos sometimes, so I'm curious to know if you guys like this style of video. Or obviously it's cool to go outside and I would never make this kind of video all the time, but I'd like to know what you guys think about them. I think it's kind of cool. You get to watch the cows behind me. I shoot videos like this quite often while I'm just out messing around with the cows and not necessarily meaning to use it for much, besides maybe scab some pictures out of and things like that. So from time to time when things get really busy and the sun doesn't stay up long enough, I end up using them in videos like this. So like I said, let me know in the comments below what you think of this style of video. So where to find Dexter cattle for sale? I'm going to give you 3 recommendations. The first one is Craigslist. This one I would say is probably the one that I would be the most weary of. Just because if you're going to run into a scam situation, it's probably more likely to happen on Craigslist than the other 2 that I'm going to recommend to you. But you can find quality Dexter cattle on Craigslist. You just have to be a little bit more careful. The second one is Dexter cattle groups on Facebook. You have to sign up for these. Generally, it's just a question or 2, and then the administrator will approve you. They're just trying to make sure that you're not a bot and that you're an actual human person, is the reason why they ask you those questions. But as soon as you're approved, you can get in there and leave your inquiry for in search of a Dexter cow and what exactly you're looking for, and you'll get all kinds of replies of people that may have them in your area. So that's a really good place to look. The third one is the American Dexter Cattle Association website. And this is also the place that we register our Dexter cattle. But they do have a marketplace on their website, and you can go on there, filter by state, so you can look in the state that you live in and see what's available, or in states that are close by, and see just what's out there. So those are the 3 recommendations that I have for you on places that I would recommend looking for Dexter cattle for sale. Moving on to things to ask whenever you contact that breeder. One of the ones that is really important to me that I want to point out is you should ask what they're feeding their cows currently. And the reason why this is important is because you can't bring a cow that has been given a ration of grain daily to your farm and expect that it's going to be okay if you intend to do 100% grass-fed. They're similar to humans, I guess, in that, to where, you know, if we get into a routine that we're putting something in our body, be it coffee or Coca-Cola or whatever it is, every single day, and then we remove that from our daily routine, then it's not going to go unnoticed. So with the cows, it's also not going to go unnoticed, but it's maybe even a little bit more serious because it takes about a year to transition a cow off of grain if that's what they're used to. It's actually quite difficult. So if that's not something you're interested in doing, I would try my best to find a breeder that is already doing grass-fed on their property. And that even goes for if you call the people up and you ask them, so what are you feeding your cows? And they say, well, they just eat grass. But we do go out there every day and give them like a scoop each of cattle cubes or something like that, it's still going to affect that cow if you bring it to your farm and don't continue on with that same ration. If you're buying your Dexter cow because you want it to produce milk for your family, and you have heard about A2 milk, this is kind of a craze that's going on in the United States right now, where everybody wants A2 milk because it's said to be more healthy. So if this is something that you're very interested in, then obviously that's a question that you need to ask, on top of probably asking them to provide some test results. If it's something that's important to you, you're going to want to make sure that that cow is A2. A lot of times you'll see cows advertised as carries the A2 gene. Well, there's two milk genes in a cow, and so if it has an A1 gene and an A2 gene, that person could still write that statement and not be wrong, but you're actually looking for two A2 genes, so you want to verify and make sure through a testing process that that cow is actually A2 if that's something that's important to you. The same thing goes if you're looking for a polled Dexter cow. Polled means that it doesn't have any horns. There's two different types of polled though. So a good question to ask is this a heterozygous polled animal or is this a homozygous polled animal? Heterozygous, the cow that you would be purchasing would not have horns, but it would have the ability to pass on horns to its offspring. So if you're looking to breed your cow down the road and you don't want horns in your herd, then that's going to be another thing, and that can also be tested for. So I would recommend requesting the test results for that as well if that's something that's important to you. On most Dexter listings, you're going to see something in the listing saying chondro and PHA free. Chondroplasia is a dwarfism gene that can be present in some Dexter cows' gene sets, and it causes the cow to be 6 to 8 inches shorter than a regular Dexter cow. Generally speaking, we're trying to breed this out of our herd. There are some people that raise them, I think just because they're cuter and smaller, but like I said, generally it's trying to be bred out. So this is also something that we do genetic testing for. So my recommendation would be to request those test results as well while you're talking with the breeder before going to buy the animal. It would be wise to ask the breeder if there's any aggression that they've seen with this particular cow. It'd also be wise to ask where they fit in the herd, because there's kind of a totem pole, I guess you would say, in a cow herd, and it's just good to know if they're kind of the, I don't know a good word for it, the wimp of the bunch, or if they're what they call the herd boss. The herd boss, typically in my experience, will be a cow that takes very good care of its calves, but at the same time, it'll be a cow that if it does calf, it's going to possibly show a little bit of aggression towards you if you go near its calf in the first few days after it being born. So that's just something that's good to know. There's always going to be a herd boss in your herd, and this is something that we just kind of deal with. I don't see it as a big problem, but it's just something good to know up front so that you can understand. And also, it's good to get that feeling from the person when you ask them about aggression, to see if the way they're answering you seems like maybe they're hiding anything or anything like that. You don't want to go buy a cow and get it home and find out that it was the problem child of their farm. A lot of the listings that I see say this cow is registerable. That would mean that its parents are registered, so they assume it can be registered, which is a good assumption, but you want to make sure that they register that cow on their farm. Don't go buy a cow and let them say, oh no, we'll register it and take care of everything after you're gone. That would be similar to going and buying a car and somebody saying, I'll send you the title in a couple of months. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that they register it on their farm. That is the rules of the American Dexter Cattle Association, is that they register it while it's on their farm. So just make sure if it says register a bull, that you let them know that your expectation is that you want the animal registered before you come and purchase it. Then at that time, after it's registered in their name, it's a simple transfer from them to you, and you'll be mailed a new registration paper with your name on it by the American Dexter Cattle Association. And that's going to wrap it up for the questions, guys, that I would ask the breeder. I think that pretty well encompasses everything that you need to ask the breeder, aside from obviously negotiating a price, which that's going to be different in every single situation, so I'm not going to comment on that in this video. So that brings us to the day that you're going to pick up your Dexter cow from that farm. This is a very exciting day. It can get so exciting that you'll get yourself into a place where you're going to bring this cow home no matter what. And that's not a good place to be in. You want to stay as calm as possible and make sure that you're evaluating everything so that you don't end up making a bad decision just because you've done all the talking, you've possibly drove a good distance. I know in my experience that's the way it is. I generally have to drive quite a ways to get a Dexter cow. But don't let that get you to the point to where you're just not making good decisions and not evaluating the situation completely. Probably the number one recommendation that I can give when you go to buy your animal, when you go to that person's farm, is to spend time on that person's farm. You don't want to just show up, exchange money, load the cow in the trailer, and be gone, because you're not going to have enough time to evaluate if everything that they've told you is true. If they've told you that the cow is super calm, or that she's halter trained, or that she, whatever they've told you, you need to spend some time on that farm. And I would also say that if a person seems like they're trying to rush you, even during the telephone conversation or the text messaging, the upfront business, I would say maybe that's not a situation that you want to walk into. You need to go and spend, I'd say, at least 30 minutes to an hour on that person's farm minimum, so that you can spend some time around that cow, so that you can see their farm and how they take care of their animals, the general cleanliness of the farm, just how the herd acts together. You're going to learn a lot from that in order to make sure that everything that they've told you is true. So while you're there, just look at the general condition of the animal. Make sure that its ribs aren't poking out, that it doesn't seem like it's sad. It should have nice bright eyes and not have snot running out of its nose, things like that. Those are things to look for as far as just the general condition of the cow. All right, guys, that'll pretty much wrap it up for my recommendations for things to look for while you're at the farm purchasing your Dexter cow. One thing I do want to mention, because I've been saying the word cow a lot, which would indicate singular, is that if you don't have any cattle on your property, that you're going to want to at least buy 2 cows. Cows don't do well on their own, and it's not advised to have just 1 cow on your farm. So you're going to want to buy at least 2. The next video in this series, I'm going to be discussing polled versus horned, specifically for your first couple of Dexter cows on your farm. Keep an eye out for that video. If this video was helpful to you, hit the like button, and if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to Dexter Ranch, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.